Seriously? What's up, YouTube fam? Welcome to the Jonathan Dearman Show, the least political show on YouTube. And today, guys, I am irritated. I'm a little bit heated, guys. You'll probably hear in my tone. I'm passionate about what we're talking about today. I actually think that what we're talking about today is a bigger deal and a bigger issue than the whole impeachment trials that are happening right now with Trump. It's one small event, or it feels like a small event, but it's indicative and it's very clearly showing us where our country is going and where our culture is going and what direction it is heading in. And that is that Gina Carano, who's one of the stars of The Mandalorian, and just an FYI, I loved The Mandalorian. It was a great show. Really enjoyed it. Personally, she wasn't one of my favorite characters, but she's in the show. She's one of the stars, and she was just fired from Disney Plus and from Lucasfilms. It was potentially she was going to have her own spin-off film since they're making a bunch of different films for Star Wars and for Marvel. She was going to have, or shows, she was going to have one of her own shows that's now canceled and is no longer going to be happening because Disney and Lucasfilms fired her. So why did they fire her? And this is what we got to get to today, guys. They fired her for a couple reasons, a couple of posts that she posted. The first post that she posted was back in November 2020, and it was a tweet that says this: "We need to clean up the way the election process so we're not left feeling the way we do today, put laws in place to protect us against voter fraud, investigate every state, film the counting, flush out the fake votes, require ID, make voter fraud end in 2020, fix the system." Now, that tweet was controversial. It shouldn't be, okay? I do not believe that tweet should be controversial, even if you want to argue that it's partisan and it's just primarily geared towards the political right. It is a mainstream accepted idea that we need to make sure that no fraudulent votes are counted, and that's regardless of whether or not you believe the last election was stolen. But let's continue. So this was the first tweet that she gave in November 2020. And that already put her on the blacklist, or put her on a list where they wanted to get rid of her, apparently. And then here's the final straw. So here's what it was. She just recently posted a picture of the Holocaust saying this: "Jews were beaten in the streets," and this was on Instagram, by the way. "Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first had to make their own neighbors hate them for simply being Jews. How is this any different from hating someone for their political views?" So a couple things. First of all, I don't think it's a really tasteful post. I'm not a fan of Holocaust comparisons in general, except for in extreme cases or when it's genuinely similar to the Holocaust. But what she said here essentially was that the Holocaust and what happened there was bad, which is not controversial, and that similarly, the way that they started there was they first made people hate their neighbors. It wasn't the Nazis that just infiltrated. They first made people hate their Jewish neighbors so that they really didn't stand up and defend them from the Nazis. And she's making that comparison that that's like people on the political right, or people that are more conservative, is their neighbors are starting to be turned against them to hate them, even if some of them have genuinely good hearts. I don't think it's very tasteful. It's not my favorite comparison, but is it totally radically evil or hateful? No, she's saying Holocaust bad, making people hate others for their political ideology also bad, and can lead, in her opinion, to dangerous places, which I think there is a danger to it. Would I post something comparing it to the Holocaust? I would not. And this is what Lucasfilms and Disney did. They responded by firing her. And here was what they said when they fired her. It said she made social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities. My first question would be this: who did she denigrate? Who did she discriminate against or come against? Seriously, who? Ask the question, who? She said what happened to the Jews was evil and bad, right? Again, you don't have to like the comparison to understand what she's trying to say. She said what happened to the Jewish people was evil and bad. We need to be careful that we don't do similar things to other people. There is no denigrating of anybody in this post, okay? There's no hateful comments. There's nothing hateful there. And if you want to make a standard line that just says Holocaust comparisons in general are just out the window, it's insensitive, it's hateful, it's denigrating, then fine, make that comparison. But then you also have to fire her co-star, Pedro Pascal, who posted in 2018 a picture of Jews in a concentration camp in Germany and posted pictures of children that were put in cages on the border and put hashtag This Is America. That is another Holocaust comparison that, again, I think is in poor order because These children that were being held at the border were being taken care of, being well fed, being well looked after. I think the way they were facilitated was bad. I think it's bad policy. It needed to be changed, but they weren't being sent into gas chambers. They were not being killed. I think it's another distasteful comparison. The reason why Gina was fired and Pedro was not is because Pedro's ideology is very strong to the left. He's a far leftist. He buys into the left's identity politics. He buys into the left's agenda, and maybe you buy into those things, and you should have the freedom to do that. And the reason why Gina was fired is not because she made a distasteful post, but it's because her ideology leans to the right and it cut towards the political right. Here is the part that really freaks me out about where our culture is going and what these kind of examples, as they become more and more common, show us as we move forward. And that's that the Overton window is shrinking, especially for people that are politically conservative. The Overton window is something like this, and I'm going to put up a little graphic for you. And it's like conservatives have this small portion over here that the amount of things they can say are very small and it's a very tight window. You may be able to say things that are somewhat pro-conservatism or somewhat pro-politically right, but if you start to say things that cut against the political left, now you're outside of the Overton window, and now you must be canceled, fired, removed from employment, canceled from culture, and ultimately just forbidden to take part in society as a whole. And then you have the political left that has this huge range of things that they can say if it cuts towards the left that's socially acceptable. And the reason why is because people on the political left tend to see things in that lefties, people that are Democrats or politically left, are ultimately good, loving, and on the side of justice, and people that are conservative, politically right, are ultimately on the side of hate, racism, evil, and discrimination. Therefore, what they say, everything is looked through the lens of they're probably being hateful, while people get a pass and a large grace period if you're on the left, because everything you say is probably coming from a place of love. And here's the bottom line when it comes to Christianity. And I try not, by the way, this is not an overtly Christian channel, not because Christianity isn't a big part of my life. It is the foundation from which everything I do comes out of. However, I felt like when I started this channel, to start a channel that people that even aren't Christian can come and feel like they can somewhat relate to and understand without feeling like this channel is not for them. And so that's why. But I do want to go into a little bit of the Christian and biblical stance here. Here's where the problem comes in. Cultural opinion and what's socially acceptable is constantly moving. The Bible doesn't budge. The Bible doesn't move. It's never updated. It's never changed. We have different translations, but nobody goes in there and says, this is no longer socially acceptable. Let's adjust this to fit the times. And they shouldn't do that. But the Bible doesn't budge, it doesn't move, and it doesn't change. So when cultural opinion and when what's socially acceptable is constantly changing and they're getting farther and farther away from what the Bible says, and in a lot of ways where the political left, and I think in some ways both parties go away from what the Bible says, but in a lot of ways what the political left or where the political left goes away from it is in the major sexual revolution. That sex, it should be freely detached from marriage, that you can have sex with whoever you want as long as it's consensual. Then go ahead and do what feels good. Go ahead and do what you want. And that's fine as long as it makes you happy. That is totally anti what the Bible says. The Bible is very clear that sex outside of marriage is a sin. Some people dislike that. Some people don't agree with that. And that's fine. But the Bible is very clear on that. So with the culture moving so quickly with what's socially acceptable and what's not socially acceptable, at a certain point, they're going to start coming for the source, guys. At a certain point, and listen, I am non-conspiratorial. I am not a conspiracy theory guy. I don't like conspiracy theories in general. I don't like going down trails where you can't come to a reasonable end conclusion, where you just get left with a bunch of questions. And I don't like theories that don't have real basis to them in general. That's not my bent. That's not how I'm wired. And I don't think this is in that category. I think it's reasonable to say with the trends that we see moving that they will eventually come for the source of the disagreement with their behavior, which is the Bible. Because the Bible is ultimately the foundation of why a lot of people disagree with a lot of the sexual revolution stuff that is happening, and even why a lot of people disagree with some of the pushes of the LGBTQ movement, is because they believe that in a lot of ways it cuts against the Bible, because it does. And you can dislike it, you can disagree with it, but it doesn't change the fact that it's in the Bible. It's in there. The Bible talks about these kind of things, a lot of them at least. And again, I want to be very clear here. I do not think that the political right or the political left are both innocent. I think both don't stick to what the Bible says in a lot of ways, but the left does it in a lot of the sexual revolution ways with regards to abortion etc. And so I do believe there will be a point where they start coming against the source, and they start coming against not only the people's beliefs, but the source of those beliefs, which in a lot of ways are in the Bible. And the only reason why I think they haven't come for it yet is because I think it's not a battle that they're willing to fight, or a battle that they think they will win in the public opinion yet. But it is getting closer and closer, guys. And my point is this, guys. I don't like saying inflammatory things, just ranting and railing on things as if it's the end of the world. And I don't like that. But what I do feel like is necessary is to recognize, guys, this is a scary place to be. When the window is so small for people on the political right and you start shutting down opinions, that's when we don't turn into America anymore. America is built on the belief and the foundation that we have freedom of speech. You have the right to say things that are dumb, that are rude. Do I want him to say it? No, I don't. We should all be cordial and kind, but he's allowed to say it because we live in the land of the free and the home of the brave, guys. We live in the place where people are allowed to say things even if it's distasteful. And guess what? Thankfully, we have a culture. What I will say is probably good about the culture is that we have a culture that values being nice to people as a high value, being kind to people, except when those people disagree with you. Then you don't have to be kind with them. That's where the problem comes in. I believe let's be kind and generous to everybody, whether they believe what you believe, whether they don't believe what you believe. You don't have to agree with them, but let's be kind and cordial to people in general. So the reason why, again, let me add some substance to what I said in the beginning, why I think this is even bigger than the President Trump impeachment trials, because President Trump is probably not going to be impeached. That's going to be the end of it. Then we move on with life. This is going to keep going. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have blind spots, and I probably do, and hopefully I grow and get better at it, because I do want to be objective in a lot of ways. However, to me, someone who has a lot of beliefs that cut against what is culturally accepted as the right belief, that people will deem people like me or people like you as hateful people because we lean conservative or because we have opinions that don't cut in the direction of the political left. And again, some of the things that I think the political left does well is they preach love everybody, right? We should love people. I agree with that. Where they fail and where they strongly come short of that is they love everybody except for those that disagree with you. And in fact, I would say, and in fact, the Bible says this, Jesus said to love your enemies. I think that love is only truly tested when it's with somebody that you disagree with. And so I think we should love everybody. I think we should speak truth in love everybody regardless of their opinions. That doesn't mean we agree with them, but we should love them and be kind to them and cordial to them and maybe even speak truth in love. But you can't just say love everybody that agrees with you and don't love everybody that disagrees with you, because they are the problem. That can't be how we operate. It shouldn't be how we operate. I do not see this slowing down, guys. I don't see it slowing down. I don't see it coming to a stop. I don't see it coming to a place where this is no longer socially acceptable just to cancel people that disagree with the mainstream narrative. I find it freaky that you can't disagree with the mainstream narrative without being in fear or risking that you too will be canceled or discriminated against, because the bottom line, guys, is it never stops. You may think that it's coming for people only that are way out there that disagree with you right now, and that's fine, but it'll keep coming. We see it oftentimes when people now that are on the political left are starting to get canceled for not being politically left enough, and they're starting to get canceled for those things, and then they're realizing cancel culture is real, and it's coming for people particularly that cut against the political left's ideology, especially the radical portion of it, because the people that are on the radical left, and I should separate, by the way, liberals from leftists. Liberals believe in free speech. Liberals often believe in gay marriage. They believe in abortion rights. They believe in legalizing marijuana. Liberals believe in these things, but they also believe in free speech, and they believe in giving people the right to speak even if you disagree with them. People on the radical left lean towards authoritarianism, which is cracking down on those that disagree with them and exiting them out of society as a whole. It's freaky. It's moving in the wrong direction. It just keeps getting tighter and tighter, and eventually it'll come for you. So with all that being said, guys, listen, I know I totally ranted today. Some of you guys may totally disagree with this, everything that I said. I may get some dislikes on this video, but I'm okay with that because I do believe it needs to be said, and I don't think that I'm being crazy. Maybe I am, guys. Maybe 10 years from now, we look back and it's gotten better, and maybe I'm wrong, and I hope that I am. Or maybe 10 years from now, it's the point where you can only say things that are in agreement with the popular opinion, and anything that you say that's unpopular now is cancelable. You'll lose your job, you'll lose your social media accounts, you'll lose respect from your coworkers, your neighbors will, whatever, egg or TP your house. I don't know. I think that it's only getting worse. I think what we really need is we need to stand up and say about the people that we disagree with, that even though we disagree with them, they should have the right to say it without being fired. And again, Gina here, I'm sorry. I'm open to the fact that people can be hateful in what they say. I don't see anything hateful here. I see a distasteful post that had a point that she was trying to make, that Holocaust equals bad. Hating your neighbors today equals bad, potentially bad, Holocaust as bad, okay? That didn't make sense. I think she was trying to say, because the Holocaust is one of the most evil instances in history, which is why it's scary to compare things to it, but the point she was trying to make is that it was evil and that we shouldn't go down that route again. Even if you think it's distasteful, even if you disagree with it, even if you hate the way she phrased it, you should still stand up for her right to say it. And if we want to create, again, these blanket rules, it must be held for both sides. If you want to have strict standards, listen, Disney is its own organization. If they want to have strict standards, they can do it, but apply it equally. Don't just apply it when things cut to the right, but apply it for those that cut to the left, which means you also have to fire Pedro Pascal for comparing America and putting hashtag This Is America with a picture of kids in concentration camps in Germany 1944. You also have to fire him too, which I don't want. I don't want him fired. I don't want him exited from society. I don't want that. I want people to be able to say their opinion without fear of losing everything they have if it cuts against what is popular opinion. All right, for those of you guys that stuck with this video, it's been a long video, but I hope you guys hear my heart. I'm not trying to be hateful in any way. I'm not trying to in any way be partisan. I'm just trying to be honest that where we're headed freaks me out, and I think it should freak you out too. So with that being said, guys, I'm even going to skip the whole like thing and subscribe thing. I'll see you guys at the next Jonathan Dearman show. So peace out, guys. Have a good one, and don't cancel people, guys. People can be free to say stuff even if you don't like it. See ya.